Greetings everyone, my name is Dave Trépanier and I'm here today to talk to you about my third place finish at the Montreal Regionals this last Saturday. I ended the tournament with a 7-1 record, playing Exosister Dinomorphia. I got a playmat that you'll see in a second, this nice deck box over here. First, really big thank you to Squiddy for letting me post this content on his channel. Also, a quick shout out to my friend Tyler at TCG Rewind. If you like retro formats, especially Tengu Blend format, head over there. Great content over there. So without further ado, let me show you the deck. Alright, so for starters, there's not a lot of Exosister monsters in this deck. I played the 3 Martha, obviously, and the 3 Elise to go along with her, and that's the only Exosister monsters in the deck. I do think all the other Exosister monsters are pretty bad. Irene's terrible, Stella is very bad, and Sophia is okay as a one-of, I think, if you want to get a draw, but since I decided to play a different kind of normal summon in this deck, decided to forego her entirely. Then there's the 3 Sakitama. I did play usually the full spirit package with Aratama. This time around, it's not over here in favor of the Dinomorphia normal summon, so I decided to cut as the maximum number of real normal summon as possible and just keep the extenders. For those that are wondering why you need all those normal summon extenders in the deck, because Martha hard locks you into Exosisters, so you need to get extenders that are actually normal summons, which there's not a lot around. Sakitama is the simplest of them. You just happen to let it normal summon itself by revealing it in the hand. Next, this package is one I've been running for quite a while in this deck, and I do think it is great in any form of Exosister deck, not just this one, and that is the Cyberdark Package. I get asked a lot of questions about this every time I play against someone, they see it. So at first, it all started when this card was released in the OCG, and people started playing this in Exosister as it's the normal summon extender. So I decided to do some research to find other normal summon extenders, and turns out there's not a lot that do exactly that, just allow a straight up additional normal summon from the hand that can stack with each other, that do not conflict with each other. So at first I just decided to play 3 copies of Cyberdark Realm and 1 copy of Cyberdark Edge as my level 4 extender. So you draw this, it gets to Edge, and you get this, gives you an additional normal summon for Edge. So then you have another level 4 on the field, which was great. Then we discovered that with Cyberdark Claw, when the monster equipped battles, you get to send an extra deck card from your deck to the graveyard. So you can send Nitis. So you can turn that engine into spot removal in a way. Edge also attacks directly, so that makes you be able to get into battle and trigger Claw, so that you can send Nitis. It's in damage step, so there's less ways to interact with it, and that's not usually a card that your opponent is likely to try to stop. So what you do is use Claw to get to Realm, and Realm to get to Edge. And then there was the accidental discovery that when you do normal summon Edge, equipping with Claw, you have moved a card from the graveyard, so your Martha on the field will trigger. So this engine's very, very good for multiple reasons. First of all, the spot removals I mentioned, but especially the extender and the rank up effect, very, very important, as it makes it so that if you have Martha and Claw and Martha gets Ash, you can still end on your full Exosister boards just off of the Claw. So you can also in the Martha pitch the Claw for Realm, activate Realm, additional normal summon for the Edge, you keep the Claw, Martha would rank up, so you already have an Exceed over there, get to search Elise special, get Michaelis, get your trap, and set up your Magnifica. So this engine, very, very good. Now as for the ratio, for a long time I was playing 3 Claw, 1 Realm, and 1 Edge. Mathematically, that can feel incorrect, as when you play 5 cards in a 40 card deck, you actually gain about a bit more than 7% odds of seeing a card, but that 7% is half the time is going to be to see 2 or more, which this engine is very bad at seeing 2 or more. So at Nats we played this ratio, which was 2 claw, 1 ram, and 1 edge, which gives you 2 insane draws, one that is still pretty good and 1 bad one, to try and minimize diminishing returns. With this deck specifically, I wasn't running Aratama, which is a full starter, so I was putting myself in a situation where I absolutely need 2 level 4s, so I decided, okay, let's add another one, see how it goes. I'll still get a little bit more chances. Instead of adding the 3rd claw, I added the 2nd ram, so that if you double up onto some of these cards, let's say you open these, you can still use claw, get the 2nd realm, and use one of your realm to get to edge, so that way you get both sides of the effect. I don't quite think that was optimal. I do think probably just 2 claws, 1 realm, 1 edge is probably the best route to go, but definitely if you're an Exosister enthusiast out there, try this, you won't regret it. And then there's the 3 Dinomorphia Theresia. So Exosister has some weaknesses that this can address. First of all, draws in the format, this card cannot be drawed, so it allows you to still set up something with the trap card that lets you summon Rexterm during their turn, and most likely stop them, or at least let you get to your turn. This is also a very good card into Nibiru, as Exosister has pretty much no way to play against Nibiru. Well, it's very, very limited. But with this one, you can go in, and even if you get Nibiru, you at least have a solid defensive option. So very happy with this choice with the three Theresias. It was the only true normal summon of the deck, and did a great job. After that, moving on, we have the 3-dimensional shifters. Can't say I'm the biggest fan of this card, but it was very, very good for me. It doesn't affect this deck, so let's use it. And it did win me quite a few games. Sure, it's dead against Kashtira, but Exosister is already decent enough against Kashtira, and this is just very good against pretty much anything else. So I decided to play this, and then 3 Ash Blossoms. I do think it's pretty good right now. So threw the 3 Ashes in there. Then for spell cards, we have 3 Pot of Prosperity. I don't think there's any real reason to explain over here, aside from it with the added Dinomorphia monsters in the extra deck. It does make it hard to Prosperity for 6. It's still possible if you want to. You can adapt you can filter it quite well, but it does happen that you Prosperity for 3, especially when you already have the cards that you need. 3 Exosister packs. I wouldn't consider playing anything less. This card is just any of the good cards in your deck, and if you already have them, it's an amazing extender. Then there's 3 Forbidden Lances. So this card was either this or Book of Moon, but I figured Lance was better at doing its job, because Book of Moon is good against Kashtira, but the deck's already good against Kashtira. And then against the other matchups, against Purely, Book and Lance do quite the same thing. They get to play around their trap card when they try to summon Noir. Also, Lance has more applications against Branded or against the Chimera deck, especially when they have, let's say, only one monster. You can Lance it so that they cannot Guardian Chimera you. And against Labyrinth, obviously, Lance seems better than Book of Moon. Book of Moon does allow you to play around Scale Drain, but it will leave you with a monster face down to do so, while Lance will do both keep your monster face up and allow you to play around Scale Drain. So I went with all 3 of these. Then there's the main deck copies of 3 Triple Tactics Thrust. I think this card's pretty good right now, and I think it's pretty good even going first if you get disrupted. Since you're playing Dynamorphia Package, you get to set Frenzy, which is a very, very strong trap card to set going first. So sometimes just Rex turn can win the game all of its own. So Thrust will allow you to do that when you're going second. Also gives you your other options. Also, you can obviously go into Exosister traps if you need to. There's the one talent, which is a good generic card that you can get off of Thrust in my offensive surge target during game 1 at least, which does change after sideboarding, because this card is great, but the steal effect is not as good as you might think in Exosisters, as you are locked to special summon only Exosister monsters. So if you steal a monster and you don't beat your opponent that turn, you will have to give it back because you can't link it away. So I'd much rather use this card for the other modes, or steal a monster if I know that I'm going for games. For game 1, I think it's pretty good when you're going first and you get hand trap. Obviously, this is great. By playing only one, I mean, I'm going to be happy when I have it in my hand, but I won't break on it. The one duster, the other Thrust target. Yeah, I mean, have one searchable back row removal. And then for the traps, we got 2 Dinomorphia Frenzy and 1 Exosister Returnia. I'm not playing Vadis, as Frenzy's you already play a trap that's going to summon during their turn, so let's not abuse the good things. You do get Returnia usually when you do not have the access to the Dinomorphias. If you do, however, have the Dinomorphia cards, I prefer to search packs. I'll show it later. Things you can do with a combination of these, but just if you can only go into Exosister plays, just Magnifica is probably not enough, so you get to Returnia to try and get that additional edge. Alright, let's go into the extra deck. Extra deck, first with the Dinomorphia cards, we have 1 Stealthburgia, 1 Cantrigina, and 2 Rex Terms. Like, the only thing that's important is that you have Cantrigina and Rex Term. Right now I was playing 2 Frenzy, which I am not certain is correct. Like, at first I had them by thinking maybe you use only 2 monsters. We use only these. Say you use this one and want Theresia in your deck. So in the first Rex turn it gets outed. You float in Theresia when it's destroyed and set the other frenzies for the next turn so that you can summon the second Rex turn, but that didn't come up. So I think it's better to see it as a one time you're going to access Dinomorphia cards. So in that scenario, maybe this becomes a fossil dig in the deck to get another 4th Theresia to have more access to it, but keeping the same number of accesses to it basically. So what's important is that you have at least 1 Rex term and 1 Cantrigina, like if you play only one of the trap card. Decide to play this one just in case it comes up. Its effect's not pretty good. I mean, if you're going to summon Cantrigina, at least you can send Stealthburgia as the material so that when you use her effect, you won't get called by the grave if it's another copy of Cantrigina. So, important thing to note, Cantrigina is level 6 on the dark, so it opens up plays with Chaos Angel, which does also have applications with the Bestials. And then we have Zeus and Metis, as mentioned earlier, for the Cyberdark package. You can use this to destroy a card during damage calculation, which is pretty interesting. And there's not a lot of cards that can actually answer that. I did use it a few times during the tournament, at least twice, one of which I destroyed my own Ibli that was given to me by my opponent. So I was very happy to have it. And even if I had a Link monster in this place, even Lingeribo or Skystriker Ace as Aaliyah, by summoning it to out the Ibli, I would have locked myself from using Martha anyway, so I'd much rather use this instead. Then for the Exosister monsters, there's 1 Jabrine, 1 Sophiel, 1 Caspitel. This is pretty normal. Usually people play more Caspitels. Basically, with such a small Exosister count, you're only going to resolve once during the first turn. and then that's not necessary anymore. Also, the extra deck is much tighter since you have to fit the Dinomorphia cards, but I never missed another Caspitel, and this was basically, this was perfect. You just have all the options. Then there's 3 Michaelis. So this one is by far the best card in this deck. If you need any reason to play Exosisters, that's Exosister Michaelis. So I wouldn't consider playing less than 3. I also try to avoid as much as possible to banish any of them with Prosperity, even when I go for 6, as it is your best tool also in a grand game. And then there's 2 Exosister Magnifica, back down to 2, as you could play 3 when there was more Kashtira, so that you get protected from Unicorn, because usually you would summon 1, and if they out it and manage to Unicorn the other one, you lose any way that you can actually beat them with the decrease in Kashtira players in the tournaments. I decided to put it back down to 2. Then for a side deck, I must admit that usually I am more prepared for a side deck and have more extensive testing and research as to what I want to do with it, but I did build it very last minute before the tournament. Some of these cards have been in my side deck for months now. Some of them I threw in for the event. First are the Bestials, which are basically amazing. They've been there. I have them in this deck for a while. At first I was hesitant to try and use the Bestials, as it does put you a monster on the field. So once again, you cannot activate Martha if you have a monster on the field, but if it disrupted your opponent, it's pretty good. Also, you know what's a dragon monster you can search with Magnamut? Cyberdark Claw is a dragon. So even if you have Martha, if you Magnamut them, you can get to Claw and still perform a full combo. And you can get into Druid Swarm if necessary. These also pair well with Chaos Angel. Then 2 more thrust targets is Raigeki and Herald of the Abyss. This for obvious reasons against the purely decks of this world. Raigeki, not Dark Hole, as I not want this. It's not a card that's there to be hard drawn. I want to thrust into it. And with Exosisters, when you're not playing against Kashtira, when they will activate a monster effect is when you will already have cards committed to the board. So you don't want to blow your own cards away. Your bodies are important. So I decided to go into Raigeki instead. Especially since having board wipe is important, as Exosister can push quite a lot of damage quickly. Then we have 2 Lightning Storm for the backers of this world. There's 1 Call by Grave and 3 Magic Deflectors for going first. These have been there for a while. Deflectors is very good against Runic. Now it's pretty good against the Chimera deck. It's decent against Fluanderies and decent against Kashtira. Call by the Grave, last minute edition that I wanted to try when I tried to go first, so that I get to play against hand traps better, obviously. But I think this card is better in this deck when you know you're going first than in other decks, as if you don't have to use it when you set it, yes, it is a disruption, but it also ranks up your Martha. It acts as a DD Crow in that way, so I think there's added value for Cult by the Grave in this deck. And then finally, this is the card I've given less thought. Is 3 Evenly Matched. There's already a lot of removal in this side deck. This is more as a bit, let's say, thing that I do with this deck is that when I am the one that's going to decide if I'm going to go first or second, after siding, I sometimes let my opponent go first and try to catch them off guard, as Exosisters can pick apart boards, especially if your deck is suboptimal because you thought you were going to second. So maybe you can banish a lot of cards from their board, and from then they can't win anymore. I did do this against Unchained during the tournament. So now, maybe some of you are wondering, but is there any synergy aside from using your normal summon for a Dinomorphia monster? And to that I would say yes, there are quite a lot. usually what's going to happen is that you're going to end on a Magnifica. Let's say you had Martha. Let's say you opened Martha and you opened Theresia. So that by itself is already the trap and the Magnifica. Also, since you have a Michaelis Surge, you will go get not Returnia, but Exosister packs. So this protects, since you've gone into Frenzy, that means you're safe from draw. Even if you got draw at some point in there, this is set directly from the deck. If you got Nibiru, well, you still have something that will give you a strong chance to see your next turn, maybe win the game, because sometimes they don't out-rex turn. It's also very good against Dark Ruler, which Dark Ruler is good against Magnifica, since it will prevent her to tag out and to banish. So if you went for the Returnia play, that means you only have banish one card on the field during their turn. But going to this, that means if they Dark Ruler you have free reign to use Frenzy. But even more from that, there's a synergy that you can use. Let's say you activate Frenzy and you pitch your Theresia and one of your fusions, and you summon the Cantrigina. Now you can use packs and pay 800. At that point, you used Martha already, so Elise is in the graveyard, so packs will allow you to summon Martha directly from the deck, and you get to use your Cantrigina to banish the Frenzy to perform another fusion summon. So you will be sending another Theresia to the graveyard and summoning your Rexterm. And then you have moved the trap card out of your graveyard, so Martha will trigger. And even if this was Dark Ruler, you get to go into Michaelis and get a banish. Maybe start your turn with this, and you're obviously going to attack for game. If you already had Magnifica and you need to go through this whole play, you can go to Jibrin for an Infect Negation on top of all that. But basically it's going to be Michaelis. Most of the time it's Michaelis. In any case, once you get to your turn, you can search another packs, get a monster, maybe use the Cantrigina with that level 4 Exosister, and get into Chaos Angel, and at that point you just, you win, basically. So there's a lot of synergies that you can pick from there. If you had to Prosperity away some of your fusions, and you don't have the 4 necessary to Cantrigina anymore, you can go, let's say, you can go directly into Rexterm. So use these and go directly into Rexterm. You can still use your packs to summon the Martha, and if you're low enough, usually I try to half my life points and pay with packs after. Let's say you half first with Frenzy, half with Rexterm, and then pay 8 for packs. So you're at 12, so that leaves a few monsters that can get to use their effects. And if your opponent uses anything, you're at 2000 or less. So you get to banish the Frenzy from your graveyard to prevent effect damage until the end of this turn. It's not that matters. By banishing the Frenzy, you get to trigger your Martha and summon Michaelis. So even if you had to pot for 6 to get a play, you can still pull this off. You just won't have the Cantrigina, but if you start your turn with these, you're probably going to win anyway. So that's the deck. Now, in closing thoughts, do I think this is the best way to play Exosisters? I mean, it does sacrifice the best starter in Aratama, but at the same time, it's one that's pretty vulnerable. Aratama is very vulnerable to draw. Also, this plays around most of the weaknesses that your opponent could exploit, like Dark Ruler and Nibiru. So I think that's a pretty interesting take. Also the Cyberdark Engine, like whatever your build of Exosisters is, please try it. It is an honorary Exosister monster, and it is better than all 3 other options. So hope you enjoyed it, and thanks again, Squeedy, for letting me host this. Bye.